So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's meeting of the Tribal Personal Responsibility Education Program, New Grantee Orientation Meeting. My name is Patrick Ahern with RTI, and I'll be helping out with the virtual room today. So please note when you log in, your microphone and web camera will be automatically muted. If you have any questions for presenters today, please type those into the Q&A window. And if you happen to run into any technical issues with Zoom, please reach out to me in the chat window and I can help troubleshoot. So at this time, we'll get started with an introduction from Debbie Powell.
Hello, I'm Debbie Powell, and I serve as the Deputy Associate Commissioner and the Acting Associate Commissioner for the Family and Youth Services Bureau, or FYSB. We lie at the Administration for Children and Families, and I provide senior leadership for 3 FYSB grant programs, one of which is the Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Programs, also known as the APP program. On behalf of FYSB, and specifically the Division of Optimal Adolescent Development, where the APP programs are administered, we welcome you and are excited that you have joined us virtually for orientation for the new FY21 grantees. We are appreciative of your commitment to implement effective personal responsibility education programs and sexual risk avoidance education prevention services throughout the United States and U.S. territories. We acknowledge the challenges of delivering services during a pandemic. However, we are very happy and proud that grantees have continued to reach hundreds of young people given this monumental barrier. Many of you have proven to be tremendous leaders and advocates who have advanced FYSB's understanding and programming in the field. We are very proud to call you partners. I'd like to thank all of you for your hard work and your diligence in responding to our APP Notice of Funding Opportunity announcement in July and commend you on submitting such thorough and well-developed applications. And it goes without saying, congratulations, not only on your successful applications, but in your commitment to foster the growth and success of at-risk youth in your communities. I'm very pleased to say that FYSB awarded a total of $52 million in SRAE and PrEP grants to 89 organizations that work every day to prevent adolescent pregnancy, and for some, to prevent sexually transmitted infections, including HIV and AIDS. We can't wait to see and help foster your success in providing effective adolescent pregnancy prevention programming to help prepare youth for a brighter future. Of course, you're already familiar with the APP program as evidenced by those applications, but today's orientation provides the opportunity to look closely at the inner workings of the legislation, the processes and practices for properly managing your grant and the resources available to help you do so. There will be a lot of information thrown at you provided today, and it's essential for you to understand how and where it factors into your work. So get comfortable, be engaged, and ready for our question and answer period at the end of the presentation. Let me share a little bit of what will be presented to you during this orientation. We will introduce you to our awesome FYSB staff. We will provide an overview of FYSB and the APP programs and requirements. We will review the guiding legislation for your work, introduce you to training and technical assistance resources and partners, present an overview of the role of the Grants Office, and resources that are available to grantees. Plus, we will show you some of the readily available tools and resources at your disposal, like the Exchange, which is an awesome interactive activation platform for APP grantees, partners, and stakeholders to help increase the visibility and impact of your efforts to prevent pregnancy among our most vulnerable youth. And last but certainly not least, the We Think Twice campaign, designed to promote healthy relationships, goal setting, and empowerment among youth. You'll also learn about the support that our team provides for building data capacity and local evaluations. We highly encourage you to conduct continuous quality improvement and local evaluations that will further our understanding of the anticipated outcomes and impact of your projects, and to demonstrate our projects effective. Once again, I am very happy to welcome you to the APP program. And remember, FYSB is always here to provide you the assistance, the guidance, the resources, and support you need to be successful in all aspects of your programs. Once again, congratulations, good luck, and thank you for your continued commitment to our youth.
Next slide. Next slide, one more. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Latonia Coriat. Congratulations again on receiving your Tribal Prep Cooperative Agreement Award. I am a project specialist and a federal project officer with the Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Program. As just shared, today's orientation is divided into 8 parts that you'll see on this slide. We will also have an opportunity for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. I will start first with an overview of the Family and Youth Services Bureau, also known as FYSB, and the Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention, or APP, program. We will then go through the purpose and requirements of the PREP program, learn more from the Office of Grants Management, as well as discuss additional information on the PREP performance measures, local evaluation support, and training and technical assistance. Next slide. Now to introduce our staff. First is our leadership team. Debbie Powell, who we just heard from, is the Acting Associate Commissioner for FYSB. Courtney Gaskins is the Director of the Division of Optimal Adolescent Development, which the Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Program falls under. And Labrita White is our Program Manager. Next slide. And now to introduce the staff and federal project officers within the APP program. The APP program specialists include Vernay Martin, Patrice Moss, Tanya Matthews, Letitia Winston, Jessica Johnson, Christine Zakor, Kathleen Derrick, Ricky Richard, myself, Latonia Coriat, Megan Hill, and Alexandria Washington. Our program is also supported by Tashika Thompson, our executive assistant, and Owen Burns, our communications manager. Next slide. The slide you see here provides an overview of the organizational structure of FYSB. The Family and Youth Services Bureau, also known as FYSB, is located within the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration on Children, Youth, and Family. There are 4 divisions, as you see, within FYSB. The Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Program falls within the Division of Optimal Adolescent Development. Next slide. So the PrEP program is designed to educate adolescents on abstinence and contraception to prevent pregnancy and STIs, including HIV/AIDS. Projects must incorporate at least 3 of the following 6 adulthood preparation subjects: healthy relationships, adolescent development, financial literacy, parent-child communication, educational and career success, and healthy life skills. There are 4 prep funding streams, which include state prep, competitive prep, tribal prep, and the Personal Responsibility Education Innovative Strategies, also known as our PRIUS grant. Next slide. Under the APP program, there are a total of 7 different funding streams that have a current total of over 275 grant awards to amount over $173 million. Our grantees are located throughout the nation and several US territories. You can see here on the slide how the funding is distributed by each funding stream. Next slide. I mentioned that Tribal Prep is a cooperative agreement, and this means that ACF will provide an ample amount of support to ensure that the project and the evaluation are successful at no cost to the grantees. FYSB will provide a substantial involvement beyond the usual communications, which include conference calls and site visits. We will work in partnership with the grantee and provide support to ensure success by conducting meetings with grantees to ensure that your outcomes are achieved, providing programmatic technical assistance to support you meeting your tribal prep requirements, providing subject matter expertise and resources, reviewing and providing feedback for your implementation and evaluation plans, providing group and individualized evaluation technical assistance, using webinars and other distance learning technology to provide trainings and resources, establishing a community of learning among grantees, and assisting in disseminating lessons learned and best practices. Next slide. We will now continue to review the tribal prep purpose and requirements. Next slide. On this slide here, you'll see our legislation specifies that tribal prep program is to be administered by the Department of Health and Human Services, also known as HHS. And the requirement is for HHS to consult with tribes and tribal organizations to review the requirements for awarding the 5% set aside for funding. Next slide. Eligible applicants were limited to Indian tribes that were acknowledged by the Bureau of Indian Affairs as federally recognized. Tribal organizations had to submit documentation that supported its classification as a recognized governing body of any federally recognized Indian tribe. Next slide. On this slide here, we will talk about the overall goal and objectives of the Tribal Prep program. The goal of Tribal Prep is to educate adolescents on both the abstinence and contraception for the prevention of pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections, including HIV/AIDS. And the objectives are as listed. 1, to use best practices to replicate evidence-based effective programs, substantially incorporate elements of effective programs that are proven to change behaviors, or substantially incorporate elements or practices from promising practices that have demonstrated effectiveness within the American Indian, Alaska Native tribal communities. 2, to provide medically accurate, age-appropriate programming that is both inclusive and culturally appropriate. Next slide. 3, to promote successful and healthy transition to adulthood through the implementation of at least 3 of 6 adulthood preparation subjects. And 4, to target prevention education to AIAN youth between the ages of 10 and 19, pregnant and parenting youth under 21 years of age, and youth who are at risk for becoming pregnant. Next slide. All tribal prep programs must address the requirements in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, also known as the NOFO. Some of us may also know it as the Funding Opportunity Announcement, or FOA. Some of these may be repeated as we just discussed them earlier, but we'll briefly go over them so you're familiar with them. 1 is to include activities to educate American Indian and Alaska Native youth that place a substantial emphasis on abstinent contraception. Again, to address at least 3 of the below 6 adulthood preparation subjects in programming, and to use culturally and linguistically appropriate evidence-based, effective, or promising programs. Next slide. Programs must maintain fidelity to the original evidence-based or effective program model or consult with your developers to obtain approval of proposed adaptations. Programs must also be medically accurate and age and culturally appropriate, as well as provide referrals to healthcare and other services. However, programs cannot pay for the referral services with their grant funds. Next slide. Programs must also target services to youth who are most high risk, vulnerable for pregnancy or STIs, or have other special circumstances to include youth in foster care, homeless youth, youth with HIV/AIDS, victims of human trafficking, pregnant youth who are under age 21, mothers who are under 21 years of age, and youth residing in areas with high teen birth rates. Next slide. Programs must also include a positive youth development approach to program implementation, must incorporate trauma-informed care within the programming, and must collect and report on the required PrEP performance measures. We have 3 categories of performance measures that are listed here, which include measures of structure, cost, and support, measures of attendance, reach, and dosage, and participants' characteristics, behaviors, program experiences, and perceptions of program effects, which we gather through our entry and exit surveys. Next slide. Tribal PrEP programs must also conduct a local evaluation. Your program must allocate a minimum of 15% and a maximum of 20% of your total annual budget to evaluation. Your evaluation should be a descriptive local evaluation, meaning that they do not have a control or comparison group. Additionally, if selected, you must participate in a national evaluation. And lastly, develop a project sustainability plan to ensure that program activities will continue after your federal funding ends. Next slide. So there are several post-award requirements for the tribal PrEP grantees, which are outlined in your NOFO. And these include to have your phase 1 project activities operating within at least 45 days and no more than 90 days following your notice of award, formally training your facilitators and educators in the program model, submitting all program and financial reports in a timely manner, budgeting and registering at least 2 key staff persons to attend a 3-day Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Grantee Conference annually. In 2022, it will be tentatively held in Atlanta, Georgia, or through a virtual platform. Next slide. In addition, some of this may be repeated information again, but you must budget the cost of sending a minimum of 2 staff persons to attend at least one of the 2 topical training sessions that are going to be offered every year. Once again, to collect and report on all of the OMB approved federal performance measures. And for your local evaluation requirement to participate in training and technical assistance that will be provided by FYSB and follow the related guidance that will be provided by FYSB or our contractors. And lastly, submit all program and training materials to FYSB for medical accuracy review and to complete the recommended revisions. Next slide. Now we will transition briefly to cover information about the medical accuracy review process. Next slide. As seen here on the slide, this is the definition of medically accurate and complete as stated in the PrEP legislation and NOFO. What is key to understand is to ensure that the information provided to youth is both verified and supported by scientific research. Next slide. Why are medical accuracy reviews important? Well, medical information, is constantly evolving, and as new discoveries are made, program materials can become outdated. And the obvious is to ensure that the program materials are accurate, complete, and up to date when we share the information with youth. Next slide. Potential medical accuracy issues. Issues that are addressed in the review are typically related to information that is inaccurate, incomplete, outdated, poorly referenced or supported by non-scientific studies, such as polling data or opinions, confusing or misleading, or contradictory to the program requirements. Next slide. So what will be requested of grantees to help ensure that the medical accuracy of program materials is there? So one, grantees should always conduct an initial review of their program materials for medical accuracy prior to submitting anything to FYSB and our contractors, who are Gray Matters and Paltech. If using program materials that can be modified, issues found should be corrected prior to submission. Additionally, grantees are encouraged to independently review materials on a regular basis and make updates as needed. Based on our past experience, we have also noted that during the review process that some grantees actually opt to select alternate curricula to ensure that their intervention fully conforms to the program requirements and include medically accurate information. So reviewing your curricula and all other program materials carefully prior to program implementation will really make a difference in the interventions you ultimately choose to use in your program. An example of this is if you discover that there are major issues in your program materials or they require considerable modifications, you may need to consult with your federal project officer to explore the use of other curriculum. Number two, grantees will then submit the materials to FYSB and Gray Matters and Paltech, our contractors, for review. Three, respond to inaccuracy noted in the Medical Accuracy Review Consolidated Report. How the grantees go about addressing this issue may vary, for example. One can make modifications to the actual curriculum text, create an insert with updated information, select a different or supplemental brochure, video, or handout, or consult with your developer on any significant changes to the curriculum. And lastly, you'll submit responses and revisions back to FYSB and Paltech. I know it's a lot of information, but in November, we will host a specific medical accuracy review webinar, and this will provide more information on the process and detailed instructions on how to submit your materials and the timeline. If you have questions prior to the medical accuracy review specific webinar, feel free to consult with your assigned project officer. Next slide. And here's a quick timeline. So as you know, Tribal Prep has 3 phases. So during phase 1, the first 9 months of the program, all Tribal Prep grantees will be required to submit all program materials to FYSB for this review. Programs will be expected to obtain the approval and finalization of all program materials prior to use and prior to beginning the implementation that occurs in phase 2. Next slide. Now we'll go over evaluation requirements. As mentioned earlier, grantees are required to complete a local descriptive evaluation. These evaluations must be conducted by an independent evaluator, also known as your local evaluator. And we recognize the importance of engaging the tribal communities during your planning and implementation phase. So we have divided the project period of the 5 years into 3 phases, and we'll go through them right now. Next slide. So phase 1 of the project begins upon award of the grant and is expected to be completed no later than 9 months, which would occur on June 30th of next year, 2022. Phase 1 activities include the following. You will be assessing the needs of your identified target communities in the areas of adolescent pregnancy prevention and youth preparation for adulthood. You'll be developing an evaluation and program implementation plan that will also include the selection of the teen pregnancy prevention program that you'll be implementing. And you'll begin building your capacity to respond to the identified needs. Programs will transition from this phase 1 to phase 2 upon your submission and approval of your implementation and your evaluation plan to your project officer. Next slide. In phase 2, which starts on June 30th, all the way to 2022 through the end of your 4th year, the focus is on the actual implementation. You will implement the various components of your approved implementation plan and also work closely with us to ensure high quality services are implemented within your tribal communities. Phase 2 activities include the following: building the infrastructure to implement effective programs within your community, providing high quality tribal prep projects to your youth, measuring and reporting on your benchmarks, participating in ongoing performance measured data collection and program evaluation activities. And this will result in building your knowledge base around your populations. Next slide. These are some additional phase 2 activities. You'll be conducting fidelity monitoring and supervision activities, working with to employ participant engagement and retention, conducting retention and tracking activities, collecting your evaluation data, which also includes your OMB approved evaluation templates, which will assist with keeping track of all your evaluation activities, developing and finalizing your sustainability plan, and completing an implementation report. Next slide. In phase 3, which will be the final year, year 5, tribal prep grantees will continue the implementation of the intervention, but it will also include a focus on analyzing your data, reporting, and finalizing your evaluation report. Phase 3 activities will include providing programming to youth outside of the program evaluation study, if your budget permits, developing and finalizing your analysis plan, analyzing your evaluation data, submitting your evaluation report, and conducting any sustainability activities that are needed. Next slide. We also will be providing evaluation technical assistance. We previously called them your RETA, but this year, due to a new contract, we will be calling it your local evaluation support liaison. So your liaison will assist with providing individual technical assistance to you on a regular basis. Activities will include having evaluation calls, reviewing and assisting your finalization of your evaluation documents. And we'll also be having tribal prep evaluation webinars that will be offered throughout the grant year that will provide more information on the support that our evaluators will be providing and the kind of support you'll be receiving from your liaisons. Additional information will be provided as we near the webinar dates. Next slide. As you see here, the tribal prep grantees will be required to submit a performance progress report, also known as your PPR, and that will be due on a semi-annual basis. You can find more information about your PPR, including the template, your due dates, and how to submit it in your tribal prep guidance document. If you have not received this guidance document, please reach out to your project officer, as it does include many important details that pertain to this grant. Next slide. So through your PPR, you'll be reporting on program indicators, including major activities and accomplishments, challenges, significant findings, your activities for dissemination, and any activities you have planned for the next reporting period. Later in the webinar, Office of Grants Management staff will share more information about the PPR and the due date. The due dates, excuse me. Next slide. Now we'll discuss APP program office roles and responsibilities. Next slide. The program office reviews applications and programmatic reports. We respond to programmatic and technical aspects of the grant. We ensure that the amounts for the awards are consistent with current statutory requirements, and we monitor overall grantee performance. Next slide. Project officers, or your POs, are the contact person for many programmatic changes or updates. On this slide, you will see examples of our duties and when you should contact your assigned PO. For example, programmatic requirements, any modification to your program or changes in your project scope, budget revisions, changes in your key staff, progress reports, monitoring and technical assistance. Our main objective is to ensure that the project is in compliance with the terms and conditions and the authorizing legislation, and to just basically have an oversight and discuss your development and observe your project through implementation and provide any programmatic, financial, or evaluative guidance that you may need as you're moving through your grant. Next slide. And we do provide ongoing technical assistance through emails, webinars, conference calls, virtual meetings, site visits, and site monitoring visits. Next slide. On this slide, you will see information about site visits and site monitoring visits. These are essential to the responsibilities of project officers. Your project officer will discuss the scheduling of all site visits before it occurs. And the objectives are basically to ensure compliance with the terms and conditions of your grant and to discuss program implementation as well as observe a program activity in session. And resulting from that, we'll provide any technical assistance on areas related to the programs. And as shared, you will be provided advance notice regarding any scheduling of these visits. Next slide. Now I will turn it over to our colleagues in the Office of Grants Management, Trang Lei and Ronnie Brooks, who will provide you with information on the roles and responsibilities of the Office of Grants Management.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Trang Lei, and I'm a Grants Management Specialist. I'm going to give you an overview of the role of the Grants Management Office. The Office of Grants Management, we are responsible for fiscal management and administration of grant award. We ensure the grantee comply with applicable laws, regulations, policies, procedures, and technical aspects of the grants and the fiscal monitoring. We provide guidance on the fiscal requirements related to grant awards, terms and conditions, post-award changes, reporting, and closeout procedures. Next slide, please. Contact the Office of Grants Management for the following. If you need to submit amendments to the original grant application, such as changes in key personnel, budget modification, carryover, and no cost extension. If you need instruction how to submit your amendments in Grant Solution for those post-award changes, please contact the Office of Grants Management. And we also provide clarification of the budget issue, particularly allowable costs. We provide guidance on submitting fiscal reports and other official correspondence. Next slide, please. This slide is talking about the payment management services. So the payment management services is a part of HHS Program Support Center, which is separate from ACF, and is the payment management services, our partner agency that handling the payment and accounting system for our HHS grants. The grantee is responsible for requesting payments and reporting disbursements to the payment management system. The grantee must spend the funds within 72 hours after requesting drawn down. Next slide, please. The payment management services requires the grantee to submit the quarterly reporting. That is called a cash transaction report. It's due quarterly. And please visit the PMS website here for the due days. And also you can find the PMS accountant contact info if you need assistance on the drawdown questions, or you may need assistance on, you can look for the guidance on how to complete a cash transaction report, or how to create a PMS account, or reset the PMS account, or those things. You can visit the PMS website here, indicate here for the guidance. And this is the PMS help desk number here, just in case if you need to contact the help desk for account setup or anything relating to the PMS system. Next slide, please. The two slides, we're talking a little bit about the financial report and a program report. So the program reports are due semi-annually. You submit the PPR report through the reports tab in Grant Solutions. And the PPRs are due not 30 days after the end of the period. The project period starts September 30, 21 to September 29, 22. Your first report is due on April 30, 22, covering the first 6 months, ending on March 31st, 22. And then the second report is due on October 30, 22, covering the second 6 months, ending on September 29, 22. Next slide, please. The federal financial reporting, SF-425. This must be completed and submitted through the payment management system as well. This report is in addition to the quarterly cash transaction report that's due with the PMS. So the SF-425 is due semi-annually, and it's an annual SF-425 is due 90 days after September 29th every budget year. And the semi-annual SF-425 is due 30 days after the end of the reporting period. So the first reporting period is due on April 30, 22 for the reporting period ending on March 31, 22. And the second is due on October 30, 22. And it's covering for the second 6 months. It's ending on September 29th, 22. The annual report, this would be the closeout report for the budget year, for that particular budget year is due 90 days after 9/29. So it's due on December 30, 22 for the first annual report. Next slide, please. The SF 428 report is the tangible property report, whether applicable when a grantee's request for equipment or supply purchase that's greater than 5,000 or more. So they have to complete the annual report. And the final for the closeout and disposition request report for the closeouts. This annual report is required, if applicable, for those grantees that didn't request for equipment purchase greater than 5,000. They don't need to complete this SF 428 report. And this report should be submitted in the grant note in Grant Solutions. Next slide, please. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Ronnie Brooks, to continue the OGM slides.
Good afternoon, everybody. So continuing on, the user roles in Grant Solutions, only the authorized official and principal investigator or project director roles in Grant Solutions those persons are the only ones that have access to make any requests or upload documents. Other roles have read-only access. OGM is responsible for ensuring that the AO and PD for grants have access to Grant Solutions. So direct your questions to your grants management specialist. If you have somebody that you need to add to the grant project so that they have access to be able to submit reports or anything that they may need to look at. If there are additional persons, in which does sometimes happen, other than the AO or the PD, just submit something in writing via email or letter just stating that you need to have a particular person added to your grant and grants management. Grantee control over submission of post-award amendments, and could just contact our office if you have any questions regarding any of that or the roles within Grant Solutions if you need assistance. Next slide, please. Any post-award changes that require prior approval are listed below. Change in scope or objective, that's probably the most important one out of the whole group. It doesn't usually happen, but sometimes it does. So if you find that the objectives that you were originally approved for in your grant changed, and there are other things, for some reason, there's an issue or there is a different direction you need to go in, you do need to get prior approval before you do anything like that. Change or absence in key personnel. Sometimes people that you are thinking you're going to hire or have been hired are not able to fulfill the position, and there are any changes, they leave the organization, anything like that, where you're going to have a change in key personnel, you must have prior approval, you must submit the new person's resume, and just make sure that you have approval before doing any of that, especially by your project officer who knows and understands what it's going to take to get those positions, the right person to fulfill whatever the objectives are for the grant. Transfer of funds budgeted for participant support. So if you're making a transfer of funds within your budget, you need prior approval for that. And on the next slide is gonna give a little note about that. No cost extensions. If you need an extension beyond the end of your project period for up to 12 months, it could be 3 months, 5 months, but for up to 12 months, you do need a cost extension request to be submitted and prior approval from the program office and the Office of Grants Management. Significant rebudgeting and any need for additional funds, which would be in the form of a supplement, and anything like that would require prior approval. Next slide. Budget modifications. Submit a request as an amendment in Grant Solutions. The required documents are a cover letter, which is basically It has to be on letterhead signed by the authorizing official, letting us know that you are requesting a budget modification, the reason why, and submit with that an SF, a revised SF 424, 424A, and revised budget narrative and worksheet. And it's best if you put side by side the original budget and then next to it the revised budget, so we can clearly see the changes you're trying to make. In Grant Solutions, there's a training video for instructions on post-award amendments, so please take a look at that. This is the note that I was referring to. Prior approval is not required for budget modifications when the federal share of the awarded budget exceeds $250,000 and the transfers between direct cost categories are below 10%. And if the federal share of the awarded budget is below $250,000 and the cumulative transfer between line items is below 25% of the total awarded budget. However, even though you don't need prior approval for those things, please let us know. Submit a letter via Grant Solutions, Grant Notes, so that we do have a record of what you've done. Next slide. Carryover of unobligated balances. These funds are to be used to complete unfinished objectives, activities from the prior year, and the cost should have been reflected in the approved prior year budget. So that just basically means if you find that you're going to have remaining monies from any budget period, generally you are allowed to take them over, but it has to be to complete things, objectives from that budget period. You can't carry the money over just because it's left over and then start something new with it in the next year. It has to be to complete unmet objectives from the budget period where the monies remain. Please submit it via managed amendment in Grant Solutions. Again, same required documents, the cover letter on letterhead signed by the authorized official, letting us know that you're requesting a carryover, how much, the reason why you need to make the carryover, what wasn't finished, the SF 424 and the 424A, as well as the line item budget. Again, it's best to put side by side the original budget and then the carryover budget. Show that separately as far as what what it is that you're trying to do. The annual 425 showing your unobligated balance on line 10H also has to be submitted to show the amount that you're requesting. Next slide. No cost extensions are requested to complete activities of the grant in the final year of the project period. Requests are not approved only because you've got an unobligated balance. Requests should be made at least 45 days prior to the end of the project period and are one-time extensions up to 12 months. So an extension does not have to be for 12 months. It can be for whatever amount of time you think you're going to need, up to 12 months. The no cost extension does not authorize additional spending or any new activities beyond the purposes consistent with the original award. Next slide. Follow the instructions in Grant Solutions for requesting a no cost extension. Requests will include, as everything else, SF 424, the cover letter uploaded, your revised expiration date, reasons for the request, remaining balance, all 425s and program progress reports from previous and current budget periods must be on file. If they're not, you can send them along with the extension, but everything needs to be current, all your reports, and have the letter and budget, whatever is necessary to request a no cost extension. I believe that's my last slide. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Mm.
My name is Laura Holsey with Mathematica. which provides support for ACF, FYSB, and grantees related to performance measures. Today, my colleague Lauren Murphy and I would like to provide a brief introduction to the Pmaps project and the PrEP performance measures. My next slide summarizes the Pmaps project, which has two key components. The PM in Pmaps stands for performance measures. Under this part of the project, we support PrEP grantees and their subrecipients in collecting performance measures data, including providing training and technical assistance on the measures through a series of webinars and guidance documents. And we operate a web-based system for grantees to submit their data to ACF. Once grantees submit their data, we analyze them and report to ACF, as well as providing visualizations of the performance measures data to both ACF and grantees through an online dashboard. Finally, we disseminate performance measures findings to broader audiences, such as through conference presentations, fact sheets, and an interactive brief. The APS in Pmaps stands for Adulthood Preparation Subjects. Under this part of the project, we've developed resources to assist PrEP grantees in understanding and implementing APS content in their programs. These resources include a report that presents a conceptual model for each APS and a unified framework that identifies commonalities and overlap across the models. Combined, the conceptual models and unified framework are intended to help PrEP grantees understand how the addition of APS content can improve outcomes for participating youth, develop APS-related content, and target specific outcomes in their programs. Complementing the report are 3 briefs. One brief discusses strategies for addressing financial literacy within PrEP, including the importance of delivering content that is timely, sequential, relevant, and developmentally appropriate for youth. A second brief provides guidance on using the APS conceptual models to tailor PrEP programming for pregnant and parenting youth. And the final brief describes the value of positive youth development approach in relation to the APS and how to integrate positive youth development into PrEP programs. Turning back to the performance measures, as shown on my next slide, these serve several related purposes. Performance measures help ACF monitor program implementation, including whether PrEP objectives and legislative requirements are being met. The measures can create a foundation for program improvement efforts by ensuring that grantees have data that they can use to assess their own and their subrecipients' performance and progress over time, and identify training and technical assistance needs. Finally, performance measures facilitate reporting information about PrEP to policymakers and legislators. As shown in the graphic on my next slide, the PrEP performance measures originate from multiple levels. Each grantee reports data to ACF, including information at the grantee level, and also from providers, program models, and participants. Go through just a bit of terminology. A provider in this context is an organization working directly with youth. Some providers are subrecipients, but other grantees act as providers, operating programs directly, as shown on the right side of this figure. Programs refer to the curriculum model being implemented, and participants refer to the youth served, who provide data by completing entry and exit surveys, which are aggregated to the program level for reporting to ACF. And now, I'll turn the presentation over to my colleague, Lauren Murphy, who will provide more information on the performance measures themselves.
Thank you, Laura. So I'm happy to share an introduction to the PrEP performance measures. You'll learn more detail about these measures at upcoming webinars, and those dates will be posted in a few slides. PrEP performance measures fall into 3 broad categories, and the frequency of submission and reporting periods vary by category. First are the measures of structure, cost, and support for program implementation, and those are submitted once a year and cover a full grant year from October through September. The other measures, measures of attendance, reach, and dosage, and participant characteristics, program experiences, and perceptions of program effects are submitted twice a year, with each round covering the previous 6 months of programming. For instance, in the summer, you would submit data covering January through June. On the next slide, we'll take a look at the first category of structure, cost, and support. These measures are reported at the grantee, provider, and program level. The first set of measures describe how your grant is structured. You'll report on grantee and provider staffing. You'll also describe what programming is being provided to youth, such as the program model implemented, which APS are selected and how they are implemented, and the intended delivery hours. Lastly, you'll report on your target populations. Measures of cost include reporting on both PrEP grant funding and allocation and any provider level funding. Lastly, in this category are measures of support for implementation. This includes reporting on how training, technical assistance, and observations are provided, and the implementation challenges providers may face and any needs for technical assistance. On the next slide, you'll see the category of measures of attendance, reach, and dosage. These measures are collected at the participant level, but are aggregated up to a program level. Performance measures from attendance include the number of youth who attended at least one session overall, by grade grouping, and by the setting. A measure of program reach is based on whether at least 50% of youth served by each program model were from a specific population served. Examples include youth in foster care or youth in the juvenile justice system. Then there are measures of program dosage, such as the number of youth who complete at least 75% of the intended program hours, the number of program hours delivered to each cohort, and the number of completed cohorts overall for the reporting period. On the next slide is the last category, measures of participant characteristics, program experiences, and perceptions of program effects. These are the measures that are collected through participant entry and exit surveys and are reported, once again, aggregated up to the program model level. Entry survey items include participant characteristics or demographics such as age and race, and the same set of items are also reported from the exit survey. The exit survey also asks youth about their experiences in the program and their perceptions of the effects of the PrEP program on their sexual risk behaviors. So this covers the introduction to the measures, but on the next slide, I'll share some additional resources. Thank you. I'd like to point you out to the Pmaps website, prepeval.com, and I can drop that website into the chat. Here on this website, you'll find more information about APS reports and briefs, as well as the performance measures. I will note that the revisions to the performance measures are currently under review by OMB, but are expected to be available shortly. The measures available on the website are from previous rounds of data collection, but the revisions to the measures are minor, so these materials are still helpful for any pre-planning. Next slide. Lastly, we have a set of training webinars that will discuss measures further, as well as provide guidance on working with partners and institutional review boards, as well as administrating surveys. Invitations for these webinars will be sent out soon, and they'll be coming through our project help desk email, prepperformancemeasures@mathematica-mpr.com. So thank you all. I'm happy to pass the presentation over to Samakal from OPRE.
Hi, it looks like my video is upside down. That's really weird. Can you see me upside down?
Yes, it is upside down.
Oh, goodness. That's so weird.
You are
Okay.
corrected now.
Okay, I'm glad that I was able to do that very quickly. I apologize for that. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Selma Kaal. I am pleased to introduce you to the Local Evaluation Support, or the LES, or also known as the Evaluation Technical Assistant that tribal PrEP grantees will receive. My colleague Kathleen McCoy and myself will oversee the evaluation support. We both work at the Office of Planning, Research, and Evaluation, and we will work with with FYSB, in collaboration with FYSB, to support the PrEP local evaluations. So we can stay on this slide on the background. I just want to give you a very, very brief background on OPRE. And that's because we are working, side by side with FYSB with this endeavor of providing local evaluation support. But who's OPRE? OPRE builds and disseminates knowledge about effective approaches to helping low-income children and families through rigorous research and evaluation projects, such as evaluations of existing programs and innovative approaches to help low-income children and families. Research synthesis, we also do research synthesis, and we also do descriptive and exploratory studies. So if you move on to the next slide, I will tell you a little bit about how OPRE fits in the work of PrEP grantees. So let's look at this illustration. As you see, FYSB and OPRE reside within ACF. FYSB partners with OPRE to conduct national studies, support grantees conduct local program evaluations, as in the case of the PrEP LES. And also we partner with FYSB to collect performance measures. As you heard earlier, FYSB project officers oversee the tribal PrEP grants, and tribal PrEP grantees yourself will work with your independent local evaluators to plan and conduct your program evaluations. Now, to provide support for your local evaluations, OPRE will oversee a contract that is under AFT Associates. They will be our contractor, and they will provide local evaluation support to you. The contractor AFT Associates will have a consulting and supportive relationship with FYSB officers, tribal PrEP grantees, and also your grantees and your local evaluators. And the key word here is a collaborative consulting relationship between all parties involved. So if we can move to the next slide, please. Now, let's briefly discuss the goals and objectives of the local evaluation support. And I think that Latonia touched on these a little while ago, but I'll describe them a little bit more in detail. The goal of the LES, of the local evaluation support, is to support grantees in conducting high quality and rigorous descriptive studies, or program evaluations, I should say. The objective of the LES is to guide grantees through the planning, implementation, data analysis, and reporting of their evaluations. Next slide, please. Now, the local evaluation support will be delivered in three main ways. And here are the three main ways. And I provide some examples here. Also, keep in mind that some of these activities that we have listed here are fluid, as we recently awarded the contract to the contractor who will be providing the local evaluation support. And they will be in touch with grantees like yourselves to provide some feedback on on the type of local evaluation that you will be receiving. Nonetheless, the first way to deliver the local evaluation support is by providing grantees specific support. The contractor will develop templates for grantees to use to guide, help you design your program evaluation plans, also for your data analysis plans, and to organize your final report. The contractor will also collaborate with you to provide feedback on the templates, and also will hold conference calls with you to provide technical assistance on a regular basis and as a need basis. They will ensure that your evaluations are progressing according to a timeline that a grantee set and according to the grant requirements. Another way that the contractor will provide local evaluation support is by holding webinars on various topics, on evaluation design, on just different topics that that grantees may benefit from. Also, the third way that they will be providing local evaluation support is by Developing training resources. So say, for instance, toolkits, guides, or manuals on how to complete the templates and things of that sort. So we can also talk a little bit about that they're going to develop a website. And this website will serve not only for grantees to go obtain information on any evaluation related technical assistance tools or briefs or tip sheets and things like that, but it will also serve as a way for grantees to communicate with one another, for grantees to communicate with federal staff, and vice versa. So that's one of the ways that we are going to encourage for our contractor to really develop and help you communicate with one another. We can move to the next slide as my calendar reminds me of something. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about the activities that will occur. And I'm giving you sort of like a kind of like a general overview. And some of these activities, well, most of these activities really fall in within the phases that tribal prep grantees will be following in their grants. But during phase one, as you know, each grantee will develop an evaluation plan, and the evaluation plan will be developed. You will develop that in consultation with your local evaluation support team. You will be given a template approved by the Office of Management and Budget, by OMB, so to help you develop your evaluation plan. And here we have some examples of the things that we will have in the evaluation plan. Say, for instance, a section for grantees to describe their program model. Also, a section for grantees to talk about their research questions and how those research questions really are going to be measured, and also how those measures map onto the research questions and vice versa. One of the key aspects to also this plan is it will include a section or some place in where the grantees will have the opportunity to give us a discussion on how the community has helped you in developing the plan, and how they have helped you in developing the research questions, or whatever, however it is that that you will develop your plan. There's going to be a section there around that. The plan will also, the template will also help you guide to give us information on the sample size, on the recruitment methods, the demographic information on the sample and things of that sort. Also, you will include information on data collection procedures, on how you will collect the data, and things of that sort. And also, obviously, the outcomes of the study and that are tied to the research questions. So I guess that's all that I wanted to cover when it comes to the phase one. Let's talk about phase two. Now, during the phase two of the grant, grantees will implement the program and also conduct their local evaluation. Grantees will hold regular meetings with their local evaluation liaison, and they will get support as they need, and also on an ongoing basis, they will have conversations with their liaison. In those meetings, you will be able to brainstorm ideas for participant recruitment, enrollment, retention, or receive support on the best data collection strategies to ensure you're collecting your data according to the evaluation plan, and in a rigorous fashion, but also in a way that it's going to be able to, that's going to help you address your research questions. I think we can also move on to the next slide, just to talk very quickly about the phase two. During your phase two of the grant, each grantee will develop an analysis plan, which will outline a detailed description of how the primary and secondary research questions will be analyzed. After FYSB approves your data analysis plan, grantees will complete the data collection And also at that point, grantees will be able to analyze their data and following the description of your analysis plan. And at that point, once you analyze your data, you will be able to write a final report that summarizes and discusses your findings based on the primary and secondary research questions. And the local evaluator support contractor will also provide a template that will guide you organize that final report. I think that covers phase 3 of the project. If we can go on to the next slide. I just wanted to kind of finish up here to let you know that in the next few weeks, you will be invited to attend a webinar in where the contractor associates will introduce itself and give you more in-depth information on how they will provide the evaluation support. They will also want to give you an idea of how they would like to get the grantees involved in providing feedback. And so please stay tuned to an email invitation for that very brief webinar introduction to the new contractor that will provide support for your local evaluation. Sorry about that. Thank you very much. And I think at this point, I will send it over to Kendra.
Thank you, Selma. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Kendra King-Bose. I'm a member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, and I work for Miami Environmental and Energy Solutions, or MEES for short. We are owned by the Miami Tribe of Oklahoma and pleased to be supporting FYSB and its tribal prep grantees with training and technical assistance. We'll be sharing with you today as we wrap up this webinar, talking a little bit more about the training and technical assistance that is provided. As you'll see on this slide, the contractor for FYSB that's providing the TNTA is RTI International, and you'll see we've got a wide variety of partners that are eager and willing to help support you all as you move through your grant program. Next slide, please. So what is TA? We provide customized technical assistance to support and strengthen your program, and it can span from helping define a problem, addressing an already identified problem, developing a new solution, or trying new things with fidelity. Our TA providers have expertise in program planning, implementation and management, staff recruitment and retention, virtual implementation, evidence-based and informed practice, sexual health and risk avoidance education, sustainability, and many other areas that could be helpful as you move throughout your program. We take time to get to know you and your program so that together we can work to find the best method to address your needs. Next slide, please. So at no cost to your program, we provide webinars, tip sheets, we hold office hours, we host an annual conference, and have a website dedicated to resources to support your programming. So how do you access our services? Next slide, please. So here you'll find a couple of different ways that you'll be able to access the TNTA providers. So there's opportunities to participate in small group technical assistance offerings. There will be e-blasts that come out announcing the times and the dates and the connection information, and those will be shared with you regularly. If you're not receiving at least one e-blast a month from us, please reach out so we can ensure that you are on the list. We've also listed at the bottom of the slide some domains that we ask that you add to your safe senders list to make sure that you're getting the information that we send out. You can also refer to the events page on the Exchange that I'll share a little bit more about in the next few slides. And you'll be contacted possibly for some proactive technical assistance by our TA providers, just to check in to see if you're interested in TA on a specific topic or anything that might be of need to you, as a reminder that we're here to help support you. This year, we're particularly interested in exploring ways to connect grantees with the same TA provider and other grantees with similar interests or needs to facilitate collaborating and idea sharing. So you'll be hearing a little bit more about that as we get that lined out for you. And then for individual technical assistance, you can contact your FYSB project officer and they'll create a technical assistance request for assistance. Next slide, please. So what happens next once you have a TA request? So a ticket is created, and then a TA provider will work with you to schedule a meeting to really discuss your assistance needs, find out what it is that you're looking for. And then we'll put together a plan for how to help address those needs, sharing resources and scheduling follow-up meetings. Your project officer will be informed of the TA progress throughout and notified when the request has been closed. Next slide. So 2 TA events we'd like to highlight are Topical trainings and the Grantee conference, which is being planned June 28th through the 30th in Atlanta, Georgia. 2 key staff members from your project are required to attend both events, as was mentioned earlier. And this is a great place to be able to network with grantees, learn a lot of great information, and have a fun time as well. So we're looking forward to hopefully being face-to-face this upcoming year. It's been a couple of years since we've been able to get together. We'll also have some virtual and hybrid options maybe needed and offered as well. Also opportunities, there's face-to-face time with project officers as well, which is always a big highlight for our grantees at coming to the conferences and training sessions. So you'll be receiving an invitation to nominate staff to participate in the Grantee Planning Committee for this upcoming year's conference. So be on the lookout for that email, and if you have interest in having a say in what the content and the agenda looks like, please submit your information and interest. Next slide, please. So the Exchange website has a ton of great resources for you as you prepare to begin your programs. We'll be placing a link in the chat box on how you access that. Once on the page, you can click to register at the top right side. Then you can scroll all the way to the bottom and sign up for email updates and the e-newsletter. Next slide, please. So you can navigate to the Resources tab, which, if you can see on the screen, is kind of in the middle of the page there. And from there, you'll find tip sheets, infographics, podcasts, toolkits, previous webinars, and other resources that may be useful. You can search by topic, format, and grantee type to really find what you're looking for within this site. Next slide, please. You'll see the Events tab that's being hovered on there, and we've got a calendar of events showing this month. You'll see our orientation that's happening today, and then you can scroll over to previous and next to be able to see upcoming months. There is a new Grantee Welcome Package link in the left-hand menu that would be helpful for you to take a look at as well. Next slide. So we have the Connect tab that you'll be able to find on the home page as well. And this has a comment wall. So you as grantees can share resources amongst yourselves, new ideas and strategies, and really connect with folks. Next slide, please. And then finally, just again, congratulations on your award. Please contact us as let us know how we can be of assistance to you. We really look forward to working with you as you move throughout your project. And we really thank you for all that you do for our Native youth. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Amanda Seagroves, and she's going to discuss the We Think Twice.
Thank you, Kendra. So my name is Amanda Seagroves, and I am a member of the We Think Twice team. And so next slide, please. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to be giving an introduction to the We Think Twice campaign and our accomplishments to date. Next slide. So the aims of the campaign are really to engage youth. And so one of the unique things about this campaign is that we really have engaged youth in every step of the process. So we engaged youth to design the logo, pick out the branding colors, and then also even today with the campaign going on for 2 years now, we even engage youth in many steps of the content creation process, including picking the topics that we use on our social media channels, and then also the various types of social media content that we produce. So some of the goals of the campaign are really to shift perceptions and social norms, particularly around concepts such as what is a healthy relationship, normalizing that everyone has challenges with their mental health from time to time, and then also providing resources so that youth feel empowered to resist negative peer pressure. And so some of our foundational concepts that we cover with this campaign is really to form healthy relationships, set goals for the future, and feel empowered to make healthy decisions, such as not drinking alcohol and things like that when they're young. Next slide. And so the We Think Twice campaign is actually really multifaceted. So I'll kind of start here on the right or left-hand side, depending on how you're viewing this. So the We Think Twice campaign has an Instagram account and a Facebook account. We sort of focus more on our Instagram account because, as we all know, youth are really more engaged with Instagram. However, we do have a Facebook channel as well. So the Instagram and the Facebook page actually launched in July of 2019, and we are over 2,000 followers on our Instagram now. So we've been engaging a lot of youth and youth serving organizations through those social media channels. And then sort of at the hub of our We Think Twice campaign is a website that launched in April of 2020. And on that website, we have a ton of really great digital products for youth. We have quizzes, interactive toolkits, and things like that that really kind of engage youth in some of our goals of the campaign. And then, so here at the bottom, you can see that we also develop, under this campaign, we have developed tools for youth serving professionals, such as the Community Saturation Toolkit, and you can find those tools on the Exchange website. And then finally, I mentioned this a slide or two ago, but one of the main components of this campaign is really engaging youth. And so we have this online platform called We Think Twice Insiders, where we actually recruit youth and we have them participate in activities such as journals, questionnaires, polls, and things like that. And we ask them questions about various topics that we want youth input on. And when they complete those activities, they're actually able to earn gift cards based on the number of activities they complete and the points that they earn. So next slide. Okay, so this slide kind of gives an overview of some of our metrics. So as you can see with the Instagram metrics here at the top, we have been able to engage so many youth across the nation. And really the way we've really been able to do this is through some of our paid social media that we've done. But as you can see, we have been able to reach millions of youth really through some of our paid social media. Our organic engagement rate has consistently stayed above the industry standard of 3%. And we've also been able to have many youth visit our Instagram page as well. Through the We Think Twice website metrics, we've had quite a number of users, and I will say that the social media has been a huge driver, a huge way that we've been able to drive youth to the website. Next slide. And then some of our top Instagram content, as you can see here, the first two are actually GIFs. You can't see the motion in this, but one way that we've been able to really engage youth is to have like animated graphics. Those seem to perform really well. And so the first one, as you can see, it says sending virtual hug. So it's actually a GIF that we sourced through Giphy.com. So that's, if you're looking to create social media content for youth, that's a really good resource that you can look into. And then the next GIF down here is, are you single? We actually used that one for a healthy relationship style post that we had on social media. And that got a ton of conversation going amongst youth. So that was a really good one. And then that last one you see, it's announcing. So that was actually a post that we did for a giveaway, a contest that we actually had on the We Think Twice channel that was arts-based. So we essentially had youth create art that reflected their goals for 2021. And so we promoted this post, but that contest was super popular. We got over 100 submissions from youth across the country. And so that post announcing the contest has remained one of our top Instagram content. And then for the website pages, as you can see, content that really performs well are related to more like healthy relationships. As you can see here on number 3, the perfect person quiz really has performed really well. And that is like a BuzzFeed style quiz. So next slide. So how your youth can get involved. So your youth can follow We Think Twice on Instagram. And like I said before, we do have a Facebook page. So they can also follow us on Facebook as well. And then visit the wethinktwice.org website. And then next slide. And then finally, we really encourage you to ask your youth to join our online research community, the We Think Twice Insiders. There, you can see the link here, but we can also put the link in the chat. But like I said previously, this is a really great way that youth can kind of like share their opinions on topics such as like mental health, maybe troubles they're having with schools, but it's also a way for them to actually earn gift cards. So we give them points every time that they complete an activity, and they can earn a gift card. And then as you can see here, if you have a group of youth that are really creative, we would love to set up a design session with them to kind of get their feedback on what we're doing now, but also to kind of get ideas for the future. Next slide. Okay, I'll pass it on to Librita White.
Okay, thank you all so much. There's been a lot of information shared, but right now we're at the closing. And so I want to say good afternoon, Tribal Prep grantees, and congratulations on your FY 2021 Cooperative Agreement Awards. You are a part of the third cohort of Tribal Prep federal grant recipients, and we definitely are looking forward to a successful partnership with you over the next 5 years. I know you've received a significant amount of information, so I will be brief with my remarks. First, I want to say thank you to the federal staff and contractors for presenting essential information during the webinar, and would reiterate that they stand ready to provide you with support and assistance as you implement your tribal prep projects. The next several months are critical to your success, and we will be working with you to plan and pilot your projects in preparation for full implementation of what we know will be quality services targeted to American Indian and Alaska Native youth. Just as critical, and what makes tribal prep unique, is that you are evaluating innovative implementation methods on abstinence and contraceptive education to support effective results among tribal youth. What we learn from your efforts will influence future programming. And I think that's really key and significant, because we definitely want to make sure that young people receive quality services that meet them where they are, that are culturally and otherwise appropriate, but also we want to learn from your projects as to what works well so that we can influence programming and other services that are targeted to similar populations across the nation. So we know there will likely be challenges along the way as you're implementing your projects. However, we know that open and transparent communication, innovation, creativity, and cooperation will lead to the inevitable accomplishment of the goals of tribal prep. This accomplishment, these success, are definitely contingent upon your partners, your contractors, and subrecipients. So I encourage you to invite your partners to participate in all relevant training and technical assistance sessions that will be available to you on programming, data collection, and evaluation. You're further encouraged to review the recording of today's webinar, as well as to share the recording with all of your staff that are affiliated with your project. You also had received what's called a grantee guidance document in your introductory congratulatory email from your assigned federal project officer. So that document as well, please share that with your staff so that everyone has level playing field information for implementing your project. What we've learned over time is that for grantees that share their application, the funding opportunity or notice of funding opportunity, as well as any training information and materials with their staff, they're most successful because everyone has the information needed to carry out their roles and responsibilities. So again, that guidance document was shared with you by your assigned project officer in those introductory emails. So definitely share that with your staff. And on this slide, we have information related to some of the most frequently and popular websites that we invite you also to visit. There's a plethora of information located on each site to provide you with guidance on grant-related activities. So again, I say congrats. Thanks for your participation in today's webinar. And at this time, we're going to move on to our question and answer session. And Meredith Cruz with RTI will assist us with moderating if there are any questions that you may have based on the information that was shared on today, or any questions you have in general. Please feel free to insert those questions in the chat box or in the Q&A option that's available to you through Zoom. So we'll pause here. Meredith, do we have any questions?
There were a couple questions about whether the slides would be available, and we will send those out after this webinar, and then they'll ultimately be posted on the Exchange website as well. There was a question, and I think it'll be for Selma. There was a question in the chat about whether APT Associates has advanced training in culturally responsive and Indigenous evaluation. I think Selma was having trouble. Let me see if I can unmute her. I don't think I can. She was having trouble with her controls, so she may not be able to answer verbally. But Selma, you are able to type in the chat if you'd like to.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Oh my goodness, thank you. I still can't see anybody, but I'm glad that you guys can hear me. So one of the requirements for this specific contract that we wanted to award to do the local evaluation support for PrEP grantees, this time around, we wanted to make sure that the requirements were that the contractor had extensive experience working with tribal PrEP, not tribal PrEP, but tribal communities, Indigenous communities, and working not only with Indigenous communities, but also in their providing technical evaluation technical assistance. And so I can say that that was definitely one of the requirements, and the specific contractor met those requirements. And so I can say that they do have experience. But at the same time, I do think that one of the reasons why we wanted to include sort of like an advisory board for this particular contract, an advisory board that is going to be providing feedback on the tools and templates that the grantees will receive. The reason is because we want to make sure that all grantees, including specifically tribal PrEP grantees, do provide that feedback to ensure that it meets the needs of the grantees on the ground.
Thank you, Selma. There's another question, and this may be kind of a question to all the participants too. Are any of the tribal grantees planning to utilize American Indian life skills curriculum? Labrita, I don't know if you all know offhand what curricula are being used.
I don't know right offhand, but I agree with you. That's a question that's open to all of our grantees that are participating. So definitely feel free to put in the chat if you have an applicable response. And for the person who asked that question, go ahead, Latonia, please.
Oh, no, I was just gonna also share that phase one is about planning. So not all grantees had identified their curriculum at the time of the application. So some grantees may still need to do their needs assessment of their target populations before they choose the curriculum. But as Labrita shared, if anyone has already identified their curriculum, please feel free to share so in the chat.
Any other questions, Meredith?
That is all I see, but we're happy to take other questions if you have them. I know it is 5 p.m. here on the East Coast, so I want to respect everyone's time, but if there are any last questions, we can take those.
So if we don't receive any more questions, we'll assume that the information was thorough. We know it was definitely voluminous, and some of it may take time for you to digest. That's why we will make these slides available to you to go back and review. And we will ask that if you have questions, to feel free to reach out to your assigned federal project officer, and they can answer or refer you to the appropriate training and technical assistance contractor for assistance.
And I'll just flag, in case people aren't seeing it, there is some discussion happening in the chat about curriculum that people are using. So I'll encourage you to click on the chat to see that.
Outstanding. And let me just put in another shameless plug for the exchange. We do have the Grantee site that you can log in, and that information was shared by RTI staff on today's webinar. And you can actually network with one another. And maybe we can look at setting up a specific chat for our tribal prep grantees. We do encourage you to talk to one another, share your ideas, your thoughts, how you've overcome challenges and hurdles. So let's look at utilizing the exchange so that you can chat further. And also, we'll work out a system or a way for you to also connect if you need to through like cluster calls where you can share information as well and connect, and again, further network. Okay. I know we're at time, so in the absence of any additional questions, I will turn it over to LaTonya to close us out.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Congratulations again. I hope all of the information has been helpful. And as shared, you can always reference your guidance grantee document or ask your project officer. And we look forward to working with you and supporting all of your programmatic and evaluation efforts. And I hope everyone has a great evening and take care.